You entrepreneurs, and welcome to the Possibility Partners Show. I'm your host, Ande Lyons, Chief Possibility Officer, and I love helping startups and early stage entrepreneurs launch, brand, and build their businesses. And I invite all of you watching to subscribe to my YouTube channel because I carry so much advice up there for you to help you and your business hum along. Now, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm right here on Google Plus Hangouts sharing Andelicious advice for entrepreneurial adventurers. And that's conversations with seasoned entrepreneurs all sharing their best advice to help you and your business thrive and grow. And they're not just sharing their wonderful champagne poppin' moments, they're sharing their rut-row moments too, because that's where we really learn for our own adventures how to get through those difficult times. And really the Possibility Partners platform, it's all about our holding hands and sharing the courage, the tenacity, the persistence, everything that's required to be on this wonderful entrepreneurial journey. So I'm so thrilled you're here. And today we have master storyteller and seasoned broadcaster Chris Yates sharing his dose of entrepreneurial wisdom. Hey, Chris, say hello to everybody and share where you're hanging from.
How are you doing? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm here in a little small state in the United States, Texas. I don't know if many people know where that is, but we're right in the middle, and we're pretty big.
Oh, well, folks, I want you to know that I'm here today on Google Plus Hangouts because back in October of 2012, I was on a tweet chat with Dee Dee Watson, and if you're not following her on Twitter, you must. She's a Forbes Top 50 engager, and she was having a tweet chat, and you can find her at Dee Dee, D-E-D-E, space Watson. Anyway, she was having a tweet chat about video and video content, and her guest was Chris Yates. And while the tweet chat was going on, and as you know, it goes 90 miles an hour.
You know, they're so fast, aren't they?
Oh, they're so fast. And so we, Dee Dee and I were saying, hey, we need to catch up. I go, yeah. And Dee Dee goes, let's Skype. I'm like, okay. And then Chris pops in and says, Skype? That's so last century. And we looked at him, well, we tweeted with him, what? What do you mean it's so last century? And he said, oh, please, get with the program. It's Google Plus Hangouts. And we were like, duh. We had no idea what he was talking about.
It was fairly new at that point. I think it was just a couple of months old.
Exactly, Chris. I mean, and right after the show, and the show ended at 9 o'clock, I hopped onto a Google Hangout with Chris. Now that, of course, is a wonderful example of an entrepreneur taking a risk because it's not like I had hair and makeup and lighting or anything going for me, and I didn't know Chris from nobody, right?
Now you're the expert. I love it.
Oh, it was so great, and I tell everyone I have such a special place in my heart for you, Chris, because I fell in love with this platform immediately, and the folks here at Google Plus just embraced me when I landed. Yifat Cohen, Ronnie Benser, Tom Rolfson, just so many great people, and yourself as well. So thank you for making my life here.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Whatever it is, whether it's getting someone to learn something about Hangouts or learn about video or learn about entrepreneur, quite frankly, that's what we're all here to do, right? We're here to help others, and it can't just be about me, me, me. I don't like really the selfie approach. I like to take pictures of other people, So it's even in philosophy, I like to do that. So I'm glad I could help you out.
Thank you. So I know that you have a great entrepreneurial story to share because you are an amazing broadcaster. You have some phenomenal moments in your career. But did you know when you were born that you were an entrepreneur? Was it a life event that happened? How did it get started for you?
Great question. So first off, we'll start off how I got into it, backtracking a little bit. But honestly, as a reporter, I was a sports reporter, started in 1990, and you really have to have that entrepreneur spirit because every single day they would say, go find a story. So we would have to go and manufacture something every day. So it really, I think being a journalist really taught me how to have that entrepreneurial spirit, being able to create something new and fresh every day. And it was really exciting for me that every day was different. Every day was a challenge. Every day was new. And some days I would go into the office not knowing what I was going to do. So you really go out there and you're creating and you're developing stuff. But that was when I was in television. I did that from 1990 to 2007. But when I really became an entrepreneur, the novelty always starts wearing off in television and things like that. People think, oh, it's the greatest job. And I'm not going to lie to you. It is the greatest job but as a sportscaster. But it was fun at a time. But, you get a family and you kind of want to run your own business and you want to do your own thing. So I started taking these entrepreneurship courses. And what I always recommend to people, how do you become an entrepreneur? The first thing I would do is get yourself educated. There are courses online. There are universities around that offer stuff. Well, right down the street from me is Southern Methodist University, SMU, and they've got a really good entrepreneur MBA program. But they offered this one at night. It was like 3 hours. It was once a week, and you didn't have to apply. It wasn't like a college that you had to be accepted. So it's like you just pay your money and you're in. I'm like, this is the greatest thing. So I said, I got to do this. So I started taking these courses, and it was like an 8-week course every night for 3 hours. And that ruined my life, Annie. Completely ruined my life. Because I finally realized I can be an entrepreneur. So I went up to my wife and I said, I'm leaving television after a 20-year career. She's like, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. People thought I lost my mind. But I love it, and I'll get into how I kind of adapted over the years. But I'm going to backtrack just for a second because you kind of got me in this groove. Look at this headline right here. Okay? Can you read that?
Okay, so young entrepreneurs get out on fruity enterprise. Set out on fruity enterprise.
Yep.
I love that.
Me.
What is that?
That is me when I was 12 years old.
Oh my gosh. So, oh my gosh, that's so adorable.
Yeah. So that's me, and it talks about how I did all this stuff. And I go back and I read this article all the time because even back then I was an entrepreneur and had the spirit. But I would do a vegetable stand, and then one other one you're going to love. This is way before a company that maybe you've heard of, Blockbuster. It wasn't around, and my uncle owned all these movies, and I would say, can I borrow them for $1? Then I would take them down the street and rent them out to people for $2. So I was Blockbuster before Blockbuster. Why didn't I think about creating that? And I didn't. I just didn't take that when I was 12. I wasn't smart enough. But I had that. I was always trying to do stuff, always trying to create. And I loved it. But now move forward to leaving television. Even when I left television, sometimes as an entrepreneur, you have to just jump out there because opportunities show up when you jump out there. The hardest part is most people say, well, when the stars align and, okay, I got a full-time job, you know what? It never is going to happen. The stars will never align perfectly. If you're waiting for the perfect moment to become an entrepreneur, you will never become an entrepreneur. Nothing matches up evenly, and it's actually sometimes you just have to jump out there with a leap of faith and go for it because nothing's going to be perfect when you first start. So when I first started, I was still thinking television was in my mind. There was a thing called Facebook in 2007, was like a year old. And I thought, well, anyway, I'll put some of my videos on this silly thing called Facebook. Nobody's even on this darn thing, but I'm going to put it on there anyway. So my brand I was working with was Budweiser, okay? So we were doing college football and tailgating and stuff, and we had a 30-minute TV show, and it was great, right? And every weekend I went to all these schools, and guess what every student said? We love the show. And I said, of course you do. You watch all 30 minutes? They're like, we don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, where do you see it? They say, Facebook. I'm like, Facebook? You're on Facebook? Yeah, we're college kids. We're on Facebook. At this time, I wasn't on Facebook. Nobody was. I'd go to my friends. What's this Facebook stuff? And they're like, I don't know what Facebook is. These college kids are telling me Facebook is big. This is a year old. And so I started putting more and more on Facebook. A year later, I'm like, forget TV. I don't need this nonsense. I got Facebook. I got this thing called YouTube. And we started developing the same type of video content that I've done for years. People said, how did you figure it out so far in advance? I said, I didn't figure out crap. All I did was change my channel. So I changed the channel. Instead of my content going on TV, I started putting it on this new wave of weird stuff, Facebook and YouTube. And then this thing of Twitter came out. And now Google+. And now, which my friends were all in the 40s like I am, called me an idiot 8 years ago, and 7 years ago, well, you're not that big of an idiot, but that's still stupid. And 5, 4, 3, about 2 years ago, they call me brilliant now. So it is about evolving. It is about creating what you're good at, but adapting to your surroundings. There you go.
I love that. Everybody, did you get all the great nuggets of wisdom there? Especially since Chris found himself there on Facebook right when it started, when there were still crickets on social media platform, and you were willing to go with the flow. You were so entrepreneurial in that way. You didn't let your age, you didn't let other people your age stop you from joining this wonderful platform we all call social media. I just love it, Chris.
Well, thank you. I mean, you got to, and that's honestly why I tried the Google Plus Hangouts. I tried the stuff like that, and a lot of people still think that this is a waste of time. But you know what? If you make it work for you, it's irrelevant. You gotta shut out the noise. I mean, I get this all the time. Oh, I can't believe you're still on Google Plus. Fine, it works for me. Doesn't matter if you like it or not. If you make it work. We created a social sports entertainment show, and we were doing the show, and everyone's like, is anybody even watching? I'm like, I don't know. But if you continue to create great stuff, things will start opening up. So we did the show for about a month, and that's kind of when I got you involved as well. But I was doing the show for about a month. I started inviting guests on. About a month in, someone from Google contacted me. Now, Zuckerberg never has contacted me, but Google Plus people did. So they contacted me and said, we like your show. We want to put you on the suggested user list. Well, at the time, we had 500 viewers or whatever, 500 followers, okay? And I'm thinking, what is this? They're going to try and make me pay for this suggested user list. No, it's free. We're trying to promote Hangouts and all this. I said, fine, put me on, whatever. Like it's really going to do anything, right? Well, I go on the next day, and I look on there, and I'm like, holy smokes, we had 17,000 followers in one day. I'm like, what just happened? The power of Google is so big that they started promoting our show. I looked back at the suggested user list. It was like the NFL, ESPN, and Chris Yates. It was crazy. But I ran with it. And people say, well, you got lucky. I didn't get lucky. I put myself in a position where opportunity happened where I was prepared for it to happen. So if you're in positions that things happen, that's when you get lucky. Now our show, about a year and a half later, we have over 700,000 followers. So, and it's not a bragging thing about the viewers or whatever. It just shows you that sometimes you've got to go in there and you've got to just see what's out there. And really, it's almost like a cook. Try a little bit. Try some stuff. This spice didn't work. Get it out. Try something else. Always be adapting and be ready to move. But social media, to me, is at such a fast space. That's why I'm talking so fast, because it's fast. You got to be there. You got to be ready. But it's so fast-paced that you've got to stay by what your core is and what you're great at, but being able to adapt around the environment.
Okay, so I'm going to be doing a timestamp on this show. There's one phenomenal piece of advice after another. I'm going to call him Coach Chris, amazing. I mean, his enthusiasm is contagious. And folks, if you want to learn more about where he's hanging out and what he's doing, of course, you'll want to circle him up here on Google+, but also you can find him at huddleproductions.com, where he has a remarkable business. We're going to get into all those details. And hey, all you wonderful live viewers, you know that at the end of the show, we're going to be huddling up at the Afterglow party. I'm going to put the link to the green room in the comment section after I hit end broadcast, and we want to see you there, okay? So, Chris, I have to share some great comments here. We have a huge turnout today because, of course, you're loved by so many people. But I just want to share a few comments right here from Leela, an accidental entrepreneur. I love it. Yeah. You just fell in and you kept going with the flow.
I like it.
That's awesome. And then Virginia Parsons, I love this, Virginia. Opportunity show up when you show up. Boy, does that describe you, Chris? And then, and then we have, I think, let's see, we have Esther here. Oh, this is great. She's agreeing with everybody. Okay, just need to say that Chris's enthusiasm is fantastic. That's so true. And Danielle Miller, yes, adaptability, flexibility, and nimbleness. Entrepreneur mantra.
Man, they're coming up with some great stuff. I'm going to use some of these.
Right? Amazing crowd. We got great comments happening here. So let's dive into what it's like to use your brand story. You know, how do we create our brand stories? How do we use video content to do that? And how did you do this for your business? How did Huddle Productions come about? How did you learn to just really focus on the video content? And, of course, how do you attract those big brands, Chris?
Those are some great questions. So, you know, the thing I always say is, how are you your brand? What are you great at? Don't tell me you're great at this, 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 and this, and this, and 5 things. What do you, just pick one thing, okay? So my biggest mistake when I started out, and this is a valuable lesson, is I thought about all my weaknesses. I said, you know what, I need to improve my weaknesses. These are the things that I'm weak at. You know what? Forget that. That's a bunch of baloney. Ignore your weaknesses. When I focused on my weaknesses, guess what happened? You're not going to improve your weaknesses from here to here. You're weak for a reason. Stay weak in that area and hire someone to do that. Focus on your strengths. So I think that was my biggest mistake as an entrepreneur. I was like, I've got to be better at this, and I got to be better at this, and I got to be better at this. Guess what I started doing? I read and read and read. Do you think about this for me. I've been doing video content storytelling from 1990 to 2007. Am I going to learn things that I'm not good at in that amount of time in 6 months? It ain't going to happen. So it would take me another 20 years just to be as good as I am in this area. By that time, I'm in my 60s. It's all over. So you've got to focus on your time is limited. What are you great at? Zero in on that and hire others for your weaknesses or ignore your weaknesses altogether. That's one. That really zeroed me in. Now, it took me about 2 years to figure that out, okay? Because I was trying to dabble in so much. So I just said, I am great as video storytelling, and that's what I'm going to become known as. I'm not going to do this, I'm not this, and biz development and blah, 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 blah. I am a video content storyteller. I won Emmys doing it, so let me tell your story. And then what I do is I hire strategists around that and marketers around that to help me come up with cool campaigns for these brands. How do I get the big brands? One, lucky as hell first. You get one of them, okay? And you better dominate with that one. So Budweiser's a pretty big name. So I started doing really cool stuff with them. We won awards. They loved it. And then I started building case studies around that. Here's what we did here this year. Here's what we're doing now. Here's what we're doing now. Then what happens is a bunch of stuff happens. One, a lot of people leave. They go somewhere else. Guess what? They know you. You've got it in at a new company. Or two, you're using that case study for people to know what you're doing. And then the more content you create, the more people are going to find you, the more people understand your business, the more you get hired.
You know, one thing I'm curious about too, Chris, is the storytelling part. I just want to backtrack for just a second. How did you know you were a great storyteller? I mean, I know you had to go out every day. You were charged by your employer to go out and find a great story. Is that where you honed your storytelling skills, or were you telling great stories early on?
Yes, and yes. So you've got to have a personality for it, obviously, one, and then two, which I think is probably the most important thing. This is crucial in storytelling. Okay, you got to listen. And it's funny, is I've been married 14 years now, and my wife says, how do you get these great interviews? I'm like, honey, I listen. She's like, you never listen around here. I said, if you put a camera in the bedroom or the living room or the kitchen, I'll listen to you all night long. But we don't. So I'm listening all day. I don't have time to listen to you. I'm kidding, joke. But honestly, I go in, which was crazy. I would go interview people. And these are big people, you know, in the sports world. The Tiger Woods, the Michael Jordans, Troy Aikmans in that day and age, you know, the Bill Parcells. They were all sports figures. Sometimes I would dive into some other celebrities and stuff, but mainly sports. But they were still pretty, you know, the Jerry Jones of the world. And I would be in line to interview them, and all these other people would have notes. I mean, I'm talking notepads this big, and they would be interviewing them, and they would look at their notes and this and this and this and this. And I would walk up with nothing, and people would look at me like, he doesn't have notes. He's not prepared. Absolutely wrong. I had notes in my head, but more importantly, my best questions always came from answers, every single time. Never was it a question that I thought of. I would just kind of have a very open-ended. So storytelling to me is you go in with an idea of a framework of a story going into a story, but that story a lot of times journalists or storytellers or reporters stick with that block. They stick with it because that's the story they wanted, and they're not moving from it. They're not budging. The key is go in there with a circle, an open-ended deal where you're kind of thinking of a few questions, but they're very open-ended. They're not yes and no. So then you get, and you're listening to that answer. Then you follow up. What did you mean by that? Well, actually, when I was 7, nobody knows this, and then all of a sudden, and 2, you're not looking down at a notepad. So it's more of a conversational interaction. A, they're more comfortable. They're more natural. They start realizing the camera's not there. They're subconsciously not thinking about it. But you're really just talking with these people. And after a while, you start getting gold out of them. I don't need any more questions. They're feeding me questions left and right because they're answering all these questions, and all of a sudden I just let them roll. And I'm like in my mind going, ooh, okay, now I just got another question because I never knew that about that person. So then I follow up on a question that I didn't know that I had in my back pocket because I didn't know what they were going to answer. Does that make sense?
Okay, everybody?
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what happens on a good hangout is that I have a format that I like to follow, and I have a little
Oh, I've
choreographing
destroyed
going
your
on.
format right now, haven't I? I've destroyed that thing.
Love
I'm
it.
mixing it all
I
up
love
left
it
and right.
because that's
I'm
what
good
happens
and
when you're a good
bad.
host. You find the good questions that someone brings up, and you go, oh, I got to find that out. I got to find that out.
Yeah.
And of course, that can throw your guests off because some guests aren't like you, Chris, who can just go with the flow. But you're absolutely right. And Hangout hosts, this is great, great advice for all of us that Chris is
Absolutely.
sharing here. Now, Chris, as you've grown, you've brought more people into your huddle.
Yes,
How are
I
you
like that.
managing that?
Nice word.
Well, I used to always call when I had employees in
I
several
love
other
it.
businesses, it was always the huddle up. We never had like a meeting. We had a huddle up. Sometimes we
Love
stood
it.
the whole time. But how are you growing your team and in leading them and encouraging them, etc.?
Yes. So, it's by project base. Sometimes I only need 2 to 3 people. Sometimes I need 10. So I don't limit the team. I like to, and I like people to have their own entrepreneur spirit as well. So sometimes I'll give the editor a vision. Hey, here's what I want. Go for it. Well, aren't you going to be there with me? No, you run with it. Let's go. I want to see what you got. And so I like to throw people in the game. I don't like to micromanage. I like to let people grow. Because when you start stifling people and when you start telling them exactly what to do, they're never going to grow. So you got to give them that freedom. You got to give them that creativity to be able to develop and do things like that. But it's really interesting. Some of the bigger brands I've talked about, Verizon, Maui Jim sunglasses, Budweiser. But a really, really fascinating one to me lately is, and this really explains where this is all going. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
been in business over 100 years. Dallas Morning News, newspaper folks. They finally have realized that they're losing millions of dollars in ad revenue. So about a year and a half ago, they created a company called Speakeasy, a social media content marketing firm. Well, what do they need? They need a video content creator as part of their team. But it's really great that the morning news wasn't pushing away from, hey, we don't need to be in this space, to realizing that we have to be in this space. So they've created a new revenue model, and that company has grown to, I think last year we were over $1.2 million in revenue, and that's in 1 year of business. So now I'm part of Speakeasy, and I give them a lot of credit that they're now adapting in the space, and now the morning news is realizing that they need to get into native advertising and storytelling and content creation and not the old school, just a banner ad.
I love that. I've heard of Speakeasy, and I love that the Dallas Morning News was able to turn their
Mhm.
old paradigm around, Chris, and create
Yes.
this new way of being in business. I love that because I always feel badly for the newspapers in their stubbornness and how things were going to continue, although I can appreciate that. And I also agree that it's so important to hire folks and allow them to be self-directed and self-motivated, just like you are. You, as an entrepreneur, as the business owner, you're holding the vision of the business, where it wants to go, and you're bringing wonderful minds and
Yes.
talents into the equation that only make it bigger and greater and better. Right, Chris?
Absolutely. You can't do it all until you realize how to scale and how to be able to look. I can only be in one place at one time. So I'm never going to grow if I'm doing everything. So I've got to get other producers and editors and camera guys out there, kind of give them the blueprint of success of how it's done, and let them go with it. And until you do that, you're going to just basically be the grunt worker your entire life. You can read books about this. E-Myth Revisited, of course, you probably read. Don't work in your business, but work on your business. I love that philosophy, and I try
Me
and stay
too.
by it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to turn to a few questions right here, Chris, from the audience. We've got, again, a great turnout because you are loved and beloved. And, you know,
Thank
who
you.
wouldn't love to be around your wonderful energy and advice and adventure? So Cheryl asks, what about being asked to be a guest speaker for the first time in person in front of a large audience? Any advice, Chris and Andy?
First time, let me tell you something. You are going to be awful, but be awful quick, and get it out of the way. Honestly, I was on television for 20 years, and the first time I ever spoke, I was horrible. I sucked. But I sucked early, sucked often, and got it out of the way. Then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I can't be that bad again. You got to be willing to be horrible. And if you can get over that, you're going to be fine. I've got a clip that I should share, and I'll share it with y'all afterwards. It was my first time ever on television, and it was a complete disaster. But I thought, you know what? I'll never be that crappy again. So once you get past that, then you're going to be able to do it. But you've got to do a few bad ones. And the more and more you do it, the more you're going to improve. It's just part of the game.
Oh my gosh, well, you know, everybody knows how I feel. Perfection is the adversary of creativity and progress. And my firm belief is if it's 60% there and you're feeling good about it, do it. You're going to learn from it
Yeah.
and
Yes,
go for it. And the Nike, just do it, is key
you
in
have
business
to.
because you can pull together the most masterful marketing-driven business plan, numbers all shiny and sparkly, and you will never know if that's going to work because you have to launch it and you have to try it. And last week's guest, Chris, he told this story about how he launched with a whole business plan model ready to go, and he found out right away from his customers that's not what they wanted. Instead of
Right.
saying, no, but you need this, he said, oh, okay, well, what is it that you do want? Oh, okay, and he adapted. And he cashed out.
Yes, I love that point right there. So you made me think of something else. People say, well, how do you come up with the stories and the content and the creation? And I say, well, I think of the end user always. And to me, the end user, and I tell brands this all the time, and it kind of freaks them out, but they finally get it, is the end user is not a consumer or customer. They're like, no, those are our customers. No, those are your viewers. Those are your audience. So if you treat the end user as a viewer, okay? It's my broadcast background. Think of them as a viewer. What is your main objective? Your main objective is to entertain, educate, stimulate, articulate, whatever. Whatever they want is what you're giving them, right? Because you, as a producer in television, as a reporter, if you don't give the viewer something they care about, you're out of business. So what I tell brands is think like a content TV director, producer, writer. Give them what they want. Guess what? They want it. They're consuming it. They're buying your stuff. So they're not consumers. They're viewers.
See, I love that advice. I'm going to go now to one of our comments, from one of our viewers. Here we go. Deborah Crosby. Chris Yates follows his genuine curiosity to establish connection and builds on what has been established. Woohoo! Great point, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah. That is a great point. Stay with what you're great at, but adapt with the circumstances or the social media. People say, I can't keep up with social media. The channels are going to change all the time. Be consistent what you are. Don't jump from here to here to here and say I'm the this and I'm the expert in LinkedIn or I'm the expert in Google Plus. I don't say I'm that. I'm not. I'll do Google Plus. I'll do Twitter. I'll do Shamu, Whammu, Boomy, Whammy. I don't care what it is. Grandma Poo, whatever. You give me a platform, I'll put it on there. They're going to change. The outside will continue to change. Just stay true to what you know best. Andy, you're focusing on possibility partners and business and all that. You don't care where it airs. You're telling your story, what you're great at. So continue to do that, and you'll succeed.
Oh my gosh. I mean, excellent advice, and I'm laughing the whole time, nodding and laughing. It's so wonderful. So here's Tanya. I love this comment, Chris. Fumble fast. Oh, that's
Oh,
fabulous.
perfect off NFL weekend. I like that. I wouldn't tell Tom Brady that fumble fast, though.
I know. Oh, from my hometown. Just do your
Hey, keep
job,
throwing
right?
the football. Keep throwing.
And Andrea Beltrami, she's a branding goddess. I know she's loving this conversation, and I agree with you. Chris Yates, fast-talking, entrepreneurial, geeking out energy. I tell you, it just makes my heart sing, Andrea. High five on that one completely. So, Chris, how
I
do
hope
we...
you can keep up, Andrea.
Oh, she can. So keeping the buzz going, because it's not just about creating this content, and it's not being wherever, poo-poo, grand mu, wherever everybody's going, Twitter, whatever platform. It's really creating a buzz. How do we do that, Chris? How do we keep the buzz about what we're doing out there while we're meeting the customer's needs and making it about them?
It always goes back to the same thing: create great content, and and a lot of times think about the selfie. Okay, now I kind of use this as an example. All these people are into selfies. Well, this is kind of my philosophy. So when ESPN and all these networks are focusing on the football teams and all that, I think about the fan. What does the fan want to do? Take pictures of themselves. I'm the greatest fan. I'm the #1 fan. I'm the best Patriots fan. Oh, I've been a lifelong fan. They are passionate about what? Yes, the game, but they're passionate about one thing: themselves. So tap into that ego. So come up with concepts around that ego, fans' passion, what they love, who they are. So we created like ultimate tailgater shows and the best fan. And are you the best fan? Prove it to us. Do you want the ultimate experience? Come. So we're doing all this stuff around what they're passionate about. So as a consumer, as a brand, think about the consumer, the viewer, remember, not a consumer, the viewer. What do they really care about? Themselves. Feed that ego. Tap into that as much as you can. You could do this with any product out there. It's amazing. It's if you want a cell phone, okay, give us your best selfie. Please send it in, because you, fan, are the ultimate. You're the greatest. So then you're tapping into what they care most about, and guess who wins? They win, the brand wins, and I win.
Yay! It's a trifecta win.
I love that.
So what is it that you love best about your work?
Ooh, in meeting interesting people, talking to interesting people, interviewing with you, I love. Interviewing, like I go to South by Southwest every year. I've interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk. He's awesome. Just meeting these people and getting them on camera, sharing their stories. To me, it's about developing that rapport and interesting people, but really creating something from nothing. We interview Pete Cashmore. They're great. They're celebrities. But to me, it's about finding a story that nobody has. So a couple of years ago, I go to South by Southwest, and there's this something that's lines out the door. It's the biggest line I've ever seen at South by Southwest. I'm like, what is going on here? They said there's a cat in there. I'm like, a cat? This thing called Grumpy Cat. See, I'm always right at the beginning. And I'm like, what the heck is a grumpy cat? They're like, it's the biggest cat in the world. I'm like, that is just silly. I'm not going to waste my ethical, journalistic integrity to interview and film a cat. As I'm standing there, this lady comes out, and this SUV comes in, and they have security, and they're carrying this cat. And the lady says, are you the one that's supposed to do the first interview? I'm like, yes, I am. I love that cat. So I saw again an opportunity that I saw. I'm like, I thought it was dumb. But for some reason, people thought this thing was the greatest thing. And the line was out the door to prove it. Who was I to... So, of course, I humbled myself, and I went in, and I got the first ever interview with Grumpy Cat and the security, and that has been one of my most successful videos because I was not stubborn. I adapted, and I learned what the people wanted. And for some reason, they love this Grumpy Cat, and now everybody knows who Grumpy Cat is.
I love that story. That's fabulous, and I love that photo of you on your Twitter. I think it's your Twitter platform with the magical interviewing the cat. That's so funny, Chris. Well, but you also brought up a very good point. That's how we meet our customers' needs and our clients' needs, is what makes them happy. And, and a lot of times it's understanding where their sweet spot is and meeting that need as well. So I love that. But let me tell you what I love about you. Your sincere generosity. I'm telling you, you love more than anything, in my opinion, to help others. And you share yourself and your energy and your deliciousness so beautifully, Chris. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're here to do, If we can't help others in society and on this world, what are we doing here? What's the point of living? So if you can't elevate, energize, get people fired up to do stuff, and help people succeed. There is no more joy. Yes, I like to make money, sure, But I get more joy that my camera guy now is left television, and I'm helping him with a lifestyle. He's 3 years in with me, and he has said he's the happiest he's ever been. I got an editor that I'm bringing work to. I'm helping them, and I love that, to grow and be able to sustain and be their own entrepreneurs. And even to this day, my camera guy introduces me, says, he changed my life forever, and I'll always be grateful. And to me, that's more meaning than anything else I do.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love it.
Thank you. Making differences in people's lives. We have about a minute left to wrap up. Any last thoughts you'd like to share with folks?
Don't be scared. You know, you have to have a little bit of runway. You know, don't dive out there with only $5 in the bank account. That's unrealistic. But fear is the biggest holdback. I get my source and my energy from God. Now, I'm not trying to do religion, whatever it is, but that's where I get I have trust and belief that the greater good will happen. Whether it's God, whether it's something else, whatever that is for you, maybe it's your husband, your brothers, your family, your friends, get a source because there are going to be deep moments of down, like, am I going to make this? Even me, I'm a very confident person. There are times like, man, this is getting tough here. But if you can sustain that and go to a source of energy or a source that can help you get through those tough times, you cannot do this by yourself, okay? You cannot do it by yourself. So pull that energy source, whatever that is, and wrap around that, because that is what's going to sustain you, keeping that trust and that faith, and that's what keeps me going.
Oh, thank you for that wonderful advice and view of the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I agree. Folks, don't build your business in a vacuum. Hop on over, share with Chris. I'm here at Possibility Partners to cheer you on and provide, of course, actionable advice whenever you need it as well. And it's the journey itself begs that you reach out and find a source that will support you, because, boy, as Chris said, those times where you're 2 o'clock in the morning, you've got mouths to feed at home, and you're thinking, what am I doing? Those are normal. Those are absolutely part of the journey.
It is normal.
And yep, and it's why entrepreneurship is the best self-discovery program out there.
Oh, yes, it is.
You dig deep. A quick moment, Chris. I love at the end of my show to wave and blow kisses to folks who stopped by and said, oh, I wish I could be there, but I can't, Andy. So, of course, I'm doing mwah to Nicole and to Deborah Oakland and to Lisa Engels and Christopher Pearsall. I know there are a few others I'm probably missing. I'm sorry, but thank you. And our live viewers. Gosh, how great is it, Chris, that we had such a wonderful turnout today?
I love it. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me on. And good luck with everything moving forward, everybody.
Oh, thank you. I am going to go and grab the link from the green room and post it into the comment section. For those of you watching replay, thank you for tuning in and watching this amazing show. I know that you got as much as I did, if not more, out of this conversation. I'm going to have to watch it again a few more times. Please stay connected with me. I'm on every platform. I'm an equal opportunity platform user, so you can find me anywhere as Ande Lyons. And also be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I've got a wonderful download over at AndeLyons.com called 7 Essential Strategies. And it's my favorite tips to help you stay successful as an entrepreneur. Next week, we have a millennial showing up, a gal who co-founded the Women's Eye Lab, and she's going to be talking about innovation and the future in female leadership with us. And I love that she's, maybe 25 years old. She's a local gal from here in Boston. So I hope that you can tune in live on January 27th at 1 p.m. In the meantime, those of you who are watching live, come on into the green room for the afterglow party. Chris and I want to play. Right, Chris?
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and everyone,
personal questions and stuff.
Yeah, and connect with Chris here on Google Plus and all the platforms. The links are in the show description in the archives. So please, you can. Who wouldn't want this delicious man in their lives? Thanks everybody for tuning in, and thank you for having the courage to be an entrepreneur. I'm cheering you on from here and wishing you an Andelicious day. Mwah. Thanks again, Chris, for joining us. Wave bye.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.